Hey everybody, today is March 19th, and we'll be looking at March 18th MTG stocks. Been off for a couple of weeks just because, I don't know, but we're back into it a little bit. So, kind of see, this is a little bit conspicuous, I'd say, with Grisly Salvage, and we're going to be looking at that one. Otherwise, there isn't any too many big price increases aside from that. Some price decreases here and there, and then couple of other things here. The Licia Nexus has spiked up, and we'll notice that there's a lot of kind of random looking price decreases, and that would be because of the whole mystery booster coming out, and we'll be kind of looking at that and talking about that a little bit. So let's go ahead and look at our first card of the night, which is Grisly Savage. So this one, allegedly, went from 39 cents to $3.49. And see what Grisly Savage does here. It costs black, green, it's an instant, and you reveal the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a creature or land card from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. So, as you can imagine, this is very, very good for dredge decks, or I guess potentially self-mill decks, but I think more for dredge is what I would say. That's what I like to use it for. And you know, it's I don't know if I could see it. I've always thought this card was good. Now, if I ever thought it was like $3 or $4 good, I would be a little bit surprised, only because it's been reprinted a lot and it's in the common slot. But I was kind of looking at it, and even though it went up basically 10 times the amount, what it was is just, I think it's just one person posted that price, and I think someone potentially bought it, and it made MTG stocks be like, oh, okay, well, that was a legitimate thing. So, in this case, as you can kind of see over here, all the other editions are in the 40-ish cent range, and even on like TCG Player, you can look at it, and I'll show you that is, even for the Guild Kit edition, it is still about the 40-cent range. But regardless, if you are playing a dredge deck, pretty good card in my opinion. So let's go and go to the second card of the night. This is Licia Nexus. Licia Nexus is it's increased from $1 to about $2.99, so about a 3 times increase there. And let's go ahead and read this. Licia Nexus costs 5 colorless. It's a legendary artifact. If a player would begin an extra turn, that player skips that turn instead. So basically, people do not get extra turns anymore, which is kind of neat. If it be put into the graveyard from the battlefield, instead exile it and take an extra turn after this one. So if you can find a way to destroy it or sacrifice it off, which should be fairly easy, you can basically get an extra turn from it. But, 5 mana extra turn with the stipulation that you have to sacrifice it is kind of, it's not the best, but I guess for like non-blue decks is where it can kind of shine, because blue has a lot more ways to get extra turns, but Licia Nexus is about the only way outside of blue to do it. But, so if we're kind of wondering why it increased, and like a 3 times increase isn't huge, but I kind of wanted to look at this and see if there was something that was going on. And it seems like there was a Pioneer deck that was in the Jund colors, and so this makes sense because it doesn't have blue in it. But basically, the idea would be that you sacrifice off Licia Nexus, you get an extra turn. But I was like, okay, well, you get an extra turn for 5 mana, not amazing. But kind of like the other thing that made this shine was that there is Karn the Great Creator, and basically his -2 ability is you get to put an artifact or colorless card from your graveyard into your hand, I believe. So basically, this is a way to kind of get those infinite turns. You just, mostly infinite, as long as you can keep Karn up. But basically, get a good Nexus out, sacrifice it, and with Jund colors, it's very easy to do that. Get an extra turn. Next turn, you have Karn, bring it back, pay the 5 mana, blah, 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 blah. And I also think Corvold's another kind of big card in that one, because the more you sacrifice off, the bigger Corvold gets, and then you can probably just one-shot somebody, basically. So that's kind of the idea of how Licia Nexus works, and I think it's kind of neat, because I've had this card before, and I've always thought it was interesting, but You know, it's like one of those things where I'm like, well, I don't see like a huge application for it, but when you have cards that allow you to bring back from exile like that, it could be pretty useful. So let's go ahead and go to the next card, which is Artifact Mutation. This one went from 263 to 332, and I didn't really see like a huge like reason why, but I really like this card. That's why I want to go over it. So Artifact Mutation is a red and green or Gruul colors. It's an instant and destroy target artifact. It can't be regenerated, so 2 mana instant speed destroy target artifact. Not amazing or great, but its other ability here is create X1/1 sacrificing creature tokens, where X is that artifact's converted mana cost. So this is really good, of course, in the Gruul colors, and really good in the Jund colors, because I think Jund is where sacrificing really does well. At least I'm talking Commander here, but it's basically, at the very least in like EDH, it, if you're on turn, let's say it's turn 2, someone puts down a Soul Ring or a Signet or an artifact that's, I probably wouldn't destroy a Soul Ring unless it's, I think they're going to really get out of hand or something, but this allows you to basically just get a creature on the field. And if you really need that creature for something, I think the card is called Primal Growth. It's basically it's a mana ramp ability. It has a kicker cost. You can sacrifice a creature, and then you can search for 2 land cards and put them into your battlefield. Or 2 basic land cards, I should say. And with Artifact Mutation, that kind of just gives you that creature that you need and put somebody down a peg a little bit. So, but of course, there's also better probably instances for this where, someone puts out like a 6 mana cost artifact, destroy it, and now you have 6/1/1s, and you could probably use it off really well with other sacrificing things. Maybe you could do it with like Prosh or something like that, but I like this card a lot, and this would be probably more staple in a lot more of my Gruul decks, though I don't have a ton of Gruul decks. I probably have a lot of too many Jund decks, but it's pretty good. I like it. Wish the price was a little bit cheaper, but I think I gotta understand why. Maybe if it gets a reprint. So let's go and go to our 4th card of the night, which was a price decrease. So this one, Hakan Stormgald Scourge, he went from $13.99 to $11.97, but don't let that fool you, because this was one of the mystery booster guys. So let's go ahead and read this first before I go over the pricing some more. So Hakan Stormgald Scourge costs 1 colorless, black. He's a legendary creature, zombie knight, and he's a 3/3. You may cast Hakan Stormgald from your graveyard, but not from anywhere else. So you have to get him into your graveyard somehow. This would be good for Dredge decks or Hellbent decks, I guess. Hellbent is basically if you have no cards in your hand, so you want to discard a lot. Maybe Madness decks. But if you can discard something in your hand or put stuff in your library to your graveyard, that's the way you want to do it. Then, as long as he's on the battlefield, you may play night cards from your graveyard. So you could also do like a night tribal. So, discard them and then bring them back out through your graveyard and then cast other knights from your graveyard. I think it fits more of a... You could probably do this with Rakdos. Maybe Mardu or something like that. But anyways, when he dies, you lose 2 life. So that's the downside is, so you can play him from your graveyard, but when he dies, you lose 2 life. So it's kind of like, if you keep bringing him back out, you're going to keep losing health. But anyways, I really like this card. I've had this card a long time. I've always liked these kind of play from graveyard effects. He works really well with Gravecrawler because he's a zombie, and if you get him into your graveyard, you can play him, and then you play Gravecrawler because Gravecrawler requires a zombie. But of course, if you have Night Tribal, it's really good to do getting Knights back out. But what I wanted to kind of go over here is that, as you can see, this is kind of funny because when I bought him way back when, he was like a 50-cent card, maybe $1, just because everybody's like, whatever. This was like 10 years ago. But over time, people are like, oh, he's pretty good. And I think when the Brawl Knight deck came out, I can't remember her name right now, but basically when that one came out, she was Knight Tribal with Mardu colors, and so Hakan probably fits pretty well in there. And there may have been other instances like in in Modern that could be used. That's probably where it's mostly useful for, is Modern. But anyways, so what's interesting is that when mystery boosters came out, it's like $1 for the reprint, which is pretty crazy. And talking about the mystery booster pricing a little bit, I don't know with this, because if you look at like Ultimate Masters, for instance, this is not like, it's still different from Ultimate Masters because of the huge price difference. But if we look at something like Ultimate Masters basically was like during the first week or so, well, during like the first few days, everything kind of plummeted real quick, and then it started kind of slowly going back up. And then like for mystery boosters, everything plummeted real quick. And then after like 2 or 3 days, that's when it's like at its lowest, and then it started climbing back up, and now it's going back down. So I think it's going to be kind of like a sort of tidal wave. And of course, there's stuff going on with the economy right now that could be also affecting it. That's kind of hard to say what's exactly affecting the prices, and if they're going to keep going down and down, or if they're going to go up and up. Because I feel like at this point, they're getting to the point where they're going to keep going up and up. But if you look at standard booster boxes, standard booster boxes are always, they are super, super, super high on pre-order, and then they plummet down on release day generally, and then after like 2 or 3 weeks, it gets down to a little bit more stable. But they don't really hit their, not the lowest they'll be, but they don't generally hit their real low point until about the next booster set releases, or anywhere between like 4-ish months, I'd say. That's probably when its lowest occurs for a while anyways, and it may keep going down over the year, or when standard rotates, or whatever. There's a lot of factors there. But so this mystery booster is, we're either seeing the lowest prices now and it's going to go up soon, or we are seeing low prices right now, and then maybe like a standard set 4 months from now it'll go lower. I have no idea. Who knows? But interesting to kind of like do those comparisons. Enough about mystery boosters and etc. Let's go to our card of the night, and this one is Licia Sanguine Tribune. This is a 5 colorless red, white, and black, or Mardu commander. It's a legendary creature, vampire soldier, has 4 attack and 4 toughness. So this spell costs 1 less to cast for each 1 life you gain this turn. So if you gain 5 life, it costs 5 less. It has first strike and lifelink, and then it also has pay 5 life, put 3+1/+1 counters on Licia. Activate this ability only during your turn and only once each turn. So Licia kind of, I would say, almost screams the idea of Voltron, just because first strike lifelink is pretty decent, and then paying 5 life and putting counters on her to make her more powerful is pretty decent. And I've kind of built this deck, and I didn't go full Voltron or anything because I didn't want to. Because usually when you go Voltron, the problem is that you may kill somebody, but then you're dead pretty much immediately afterwards, which is not bad or good. It's just you have to be kind of wary of that. Kind of the other thing is that this pay 5 life, since you can only use it once each turn, and only during your turn, you can't just like, you can't pay 20 life and then put on 4/3, so put 12+1/+1 counters on her and just make her super spooky. But I like this ability and this commander in general, just because this ability here where you can make her cost less for her, don't know, but I'm gonna say her. You can make her cost 1 less, and so you're able to get her out more often, just because even though she costs 8, if you get something to give you 5 life, you can get her out turn 3. Maybe sooner. Probably not sooner. Maybe sooner. But I think it's really neat, and I kind of went with a more just life gain deck, and kind of using Licia as an alternate win condition instead of the win condition, if that makes sense. So basically, instead of completely relying on Voltron, Licia gives me an option to, if I can't use my cards to win, I use Licia as a way to, like, okay, maybe I can do like 7 damage, 8 damage, whatever, and do a lot of damage through her instead. But the card, our kind of random card of the night, I like this card maybe too much. I don't know. I like this card quite a bit for at least Licia's deck. In other circumstances, it's probably worthless. But our card of the night is Tavern Swindler. Tavern Swindler is a one colorless black human rogue. It's a 2/2, and you can tap it, pay 3 life, flip a coin. If you win the flip, you gain 6 life. So this is kind of like, okay, you maybe gain 3 life, or you lose 3 life and don't get much out of it. But the reason why I like this card so much is, so with the Licia deck that I have, paying 3 life can actually be good. I think there are a few instances where I have things that if I pay life, then I am able to, I get some sort of benefit. I can't think of any cards currently. Maybe if I find one, I'll put one down below. But regardless, even if there aren't things like that, the reason why I like it in Licia so much is that if you're paying 3, whatever, 3 life isn't a ton, especially in a life gain deck, but it's this gain 6 life. And so if we go back to kind of looking at Licia, then we can see that she costs 5 colorless mana, and so for each life we gain, we reduce its cost by that much. So with her, you can actually reduce her, at least her first summoning or first casting, whatever, by 6 mana, and basically effectively make Licia only cost Mardu colors, or 3 converted mana cost. And what's really neat is that since she costs 2, if you by chance get her on your opening hand, put her out, the next turn win that coin flip, now you can play Licia on turn 3. And so I think that's why I really liked Tavern Swindler in this deck, just because I'm like, oh, turn 3 Licia would be super spooky. And even then you're still gaining life or losing life to help your other abilities. So maybe I'm too much onto that card, but I really like it. I think it's pretty fun. Anyways, let's go and end our night with a couple of random cards. As always, random card number 1. Loading. All right, slivers. Tempered Sliver, 2 colorless, green. It's a sliver. It's a 2/2. Sliver creatures you control have, when this creature deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Okay, I mean, sliver. I like the idea of slivers, but I think sliver creatures would be oof to play against, because it's a lot of synergy and they can get really ridiculous real quick. But I do like them. I like the idea of them. I like their look quite a bit, but still, oof. As for the card itself, I guess it's a good sliver. It's not like the best sliver I've seen, just because it's like you need to, of course, slivers combo with each other pretty well anyways. But if you have, there's probably an unblockable sliver. I have no idea. But if you have a way to like fly with them or something like that, this allows you to get +1/+1 counters on them, make them stronger, which would be good because slivers aren't generally bulky. They just are swarms and have a lot of other effects. So this allows them to just get a little bit tougher, or not, I guess tougher and more powerful. But okay, whatever. Nothing too amazing. Let's go to our random card number 2. All right, Future Sight. Future Sight is a 2 colorless blue enchantment. Play with the top card of your deck library revealed. You may play the top card of your library. Okay. I mean, this is basically, so good and bad. Good thing about Future Sight is that you can potentially play a lot of cards. If you have a bunch of like low cost spells, or if you have ways to reduce spell cost and you kind of play out through that way, I'm sure you can like go through your deck real quick. It sort of allows you to get to lands faster as well, so that way you can play lands from your deck if you're running low on lands. But of course, if you have 3 blue and 2 colorless, you're probably not doing too bad on lands. I want to say this is anything amazing, because the downside, and the big downside, is that if you're playing especially mono blue, which is what you'd almost want to assume with this card because of the 3 blue colors, but you could probably get away with it in dual colors, and doing it in tricolors is a little bit risky, but not impossible. But kind of the thing to think about is that if you have a blue deck and you're going for control, and especially if you're doing just a bunch of like counter spells or whatever, then people know. They either know that you have it in your hand when you draw it next time, or they know that's on top of the deck and they're not going to like try and play stuff. I mean, you know, like that's kind of a counterspell in itself when people don't play stuff and etc. Blah blah blah. But if you're going for a control deck, you probably don't want people to know that you have control cards in your hand. Maybe, I don't know. It's a mind game, but it's a potential downside. As I mean, it's probably obvious it's a potential downside. It's for everybody to see, but whatever. I did kind of like look at this a little bit more, and I do like how you just have like these two faded skulls in the back. I'm guessing, I don't really know what's going on here. This seems like it should be a black art card. Like honestly, if you just change all of this blue and put it as a black card and you didn't read the text, I think it makes sense. Because like this, the art, whatever. I like the art. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's interesting. It doesn't scream blue to me, but whatever. I like it. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed. See you next time. Have a good one.